curious kind of, for people that maybe are listening that have kind of a product idea versus a software idea, what's harder, easier, unique, about being in the software startup versus a hardware startup?
I mean, they're both hard in different ways. I'd say with hardware, it's a lot simpler to know what you're building. With software, there are a billion features and permutations. So almost having the unlimited freedom to code is hard because like, what do you do? What do you build? Could be anything. So
Yeah.
that is harder. I would say raising money for software is easier because you can take a team of 5 and get to revenue pretty quickly especially with hardware and deep tech. You need, it's been 10 years before we have, meaningful product revenue. And it takes a longer time. So on the fundraising side, venture capitalists prefer having businesses that get to market faster. So I think software is fundamentally easier to raise money for and maybe even build a business that you can get the profitability. Whereas we just need a lot more capital to build out physical things.
Yeah.
But I think they're both fun and interesting, and they're just very different. And part of what I like is the variety of life and having a different experience. I'd say the other thing with hardware is that it's harder to get in, but the barriers to entry are quite high in being able to build that up. Whereas with software, part of the problem is someone sees something that you do, and then you have 50 new startups copying what you're doing, and people flooding it with money. So you can get in faster, but it's harder to keep competition out because a lot of people can just copy you.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned earlier, raising money, you have to have AI in your name, typically, right, to get any kind of like doors open. And so I feel like, to your point, like if I've talked to a lot of kind of recruitment software that has AI in it, and it's really just a chat bot or helps you write an email better. And so, yeah, it is. To your point, it's probably barrier of entry is harder. So if you can get past that initial barrier, it limits your competition because you're on the other side of the door, right? So it's harder to open that door versus a software. It's the door is pretty much open and you just kind of jump into it, kind of a thing. So very, very interesting. I want to kind of wrap up here with a little bit of I guess from a go-to-market standpoint and kind of your next step. Obviously, you've got this plant that you're opening and kind of continuing to build out. I guess, what are some of the challenges when it comes to go-to-market, because you have more of a finite target customer, which obviously, if you've got endless opportunity, it's kind of harder even because you're just going to boil the ocean, versus with you guys, it's very, you know who you need to go after. It's just, being able to break in that door. How are some of the go-to-market strategies, I think, a little bit different than maybe what you did in software? Because again, you can kind of sell to the masses versus selling to a handful of operators.
Well, I'd say even when I sold to telcos, the barriers to entry were high too. So in some ways, they were similar. On the video conferencing side, a little different, that you could sell to small businesses before you got to the multinationals.